since I never got to ask them.
Okay, there we go. I've got the live stream going, and see that. Hopefully that's working. Okay, I think so. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate it. All right, super. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here on this day immediately after the first weekend of the panel. Really appreciate you being here, and there's already been some discussion, but I'll just sort of lead off here with a little bit of background on what happened this weekend, and then we can come back to that discussion that was happening as I was getting the live stream started about the experience of some folks who were there presenting as members of the IAC. I've had 3 full days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And as you may remember from our meeting last week, you made some directives to us to increase the number of presenters, to keep the timing at about 10 minutes per presenter, to decrease your time a little bit, to decrease the time of some of the introductory material, and in order to fit in a few more presenters, and maybe something that I'm missing. And all of those things we did. You each had four minutes, or the folks who showed up had 4 minutes. And there were 2 members of the IAC that came on. Sorry, am I going to get that right? I'm getting that wrong, aren't I? 4 members who came on Friday and 2 members on Saturday. Is that right? I think. And then we had a total of 13 presenters, but there are also 3 additional presenters who weren't able to come this weekend, but were within that, would otherwise have been, a top priority person according to your ranking. And so as promised last week, they are guaranteed slots in June, and to make up for that. So there will be 16 presenters total that will have been chosen by the IAC. The weekend ended with the panels also prioritizing a list of presenters that it wanted after doing some gaps analysis about, who they hadn't heard from yet, what kind of information they wanted to see. I can talk a little bit more about the folks. In fact, I will talk a little bit more here in a second about the folks who the panel prioritized, because we're, as before, going to need your help in terms of getting contact information for those folks, if you are the person who nominated them, or if you happen to know their contact information. In addition, we actually could still use contact information for one person, I believe, who was nominated by Anne. Let me just pull this up here. Yes, so the 3 folks who the who you all had selected as presenters but weren't able to come, but were high on the list but weren't able to come this weekend, who we said, we'll take sort of the next 3 and give them slots in June for sort of one presenter block. The presenter blocks are coming in 3s. Were Heather Hines, someone from the student leadership, from a student leadership organization / bilingual student association, that apparently, I guess we know who that is because I see the note here, working on scheduling. So I think that maybe Tiffany can fill in there. It doesn't have a name next to it, but I guess we're working on scheduling that. And then the third person is Eric DeCook. And no response so far, Alex says, but need a phone number for Eric from Anne if possible. Are my notes there?
Okay, I'll see if I can
any
find
questions?
one.
Okay, super. Thanks so much. Actually, before we take questions, just a couple more notes about the weekend. It was, as always, and particularly after 2.5 years of not doing an in-person program, a heck of a production to put together. But I think we got it off. We did a number of new things, including simultaneous interpretation throughout every day, and 2 separate live streams, one for English and one for Spanish, that are recorded and on our YouTube channel, that you're welcome to go back and watch at any point. You can kind of follow along using the public agendas that are posted on the project website. We stayed pretty much on time. The first day, some of the introductory material got shifted a little bit. I think we moved an introductory item from day 1 to day 3. But other than that, they stayed pretty consistent. And certainly the presenter slots are all basically right on time, or within five minutes or so. And so you can find them in the live stream, is all I'm saying, is that way. No sort of major things to report. The panel is fantastic, as always. With this panel is particularly engaged, I feel like. And maybe that's by virtue of the fact that everyone is familiar with this topic, and it's very close to them in proximity and maybe in heart and mind as well. And the presenters have been fantastic. Thank you so much to those of you who presented, and many of you who wrote statements. The panel had time to read those, in addition to the other information from the City and Fair Board. I think so far so good. Nothing but positive reactions, really, from panelist members to our moderating team overall, in terms of their feelings about the process, which is actually better than we would expect. We would have expected a little bit more frustration at this stage, I think, but we're not sensing that as much as normal, maybe, despite the fact that they've just heard an absolute boatload of information. As Jerry mentioned as we were sort of getting started here, the panel has been eager to ask lots of questions, and indeed, every single time for every single presenter slot, we have had to cut it off before all the questions were answered. That is the nature of what a good process usually looks like. It is a bad news for us if we get to the end of the order and there are no further questions, really, because that means that this is a highly engaged panel, and but we want to fit in all the folks who have been scheduled, and the other reading times, debrief times, and question, debrief and question generation kind of times that make this process the deliberative process that it is. But that said, great questions as well. At least I'm, not on the content of the questions. That's not something that we care about, but on the sort of nature of the curiosity, I suppose, and the interest in. Apologies for the train noise. I am at the train station, waiting to get on a train back to Oregon. The sort of nature of the sort of curiosity and wanting to hear all perspectives on the issue, I think, has been really encouraging. We changed some of how we do sort of the question tips for asking better questions kind of stuff. That's part of our kind of introductory materials, and I think it's definitely showing an improvement, hopefully this time. So anyway, that's some background from us on our thoughts on the first weekend, and would love your questions or comments if you were there or watched on the live stream at any point.
Hey, Lynn, this is Ingrid. Could you, I went to the website today to look for the live streams videos, and the only link I could find was way, way down. Maybe a button at the top that just says link to our YouTube channel would be awesome.
Noted. Okay, thanks very much. Tiffany, just because I'm in a precarious situation here on my laptop, do you think you could take some notes? Appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
And I should just note, if anyone's looking for the Spanish language live stream, it is it should be accessible via our YouTube channel, or there should be a separate link there. Anyway, maybe Tiffany, if you can make a note of that just to make sure that's clear as well.
Lynn, what was the intent of using the deck of cards?
Oh yeah, totally. So this is a thing that we do sometimes in order to spread around the questions, because as you can imagine, particularly early on in a process, the questions tend to weight heavily toward the folks in the room who have participated like this, something similar before, or who are just more extroverts, or who otherwise, sort of have, feel more comfortable asking questions. So we break out the deck of cards in order to, randomize it, and no pressure. Of course, there's lots of people who, pick a card. Okay, no question, great. Go on to the next card. Go on to the next card. But it's just a quick way. We don't have the ability to sort of randomly, it's just a sort of simple, old school way to randomly select folks to ask questions.
Was that in response to Fridays where only a handful of people raised their hand?
I don't remember that. Yeah, maybe were there not too many hands raised on Friday. There may have been. Maybe people were a little bit more shy. I don't remember that. But
I guess I should
possible.
say there were quite a few who wanted to speak, and I don't think everyone got to. So I thought maybe you changed the approach on Saturday.
Got it. Yeah, I believe we changed the approach at the suggestion, I think, of one of the moderators who was seeing a number of the same names come up. And when we were doing the stack, it's called, people raise their hands and we take down names. And so that was the sort of impetus. And they were like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. This is actually a reminder. This is better at this stage of the process, at this kind of thing in particular, to randomize a little bit. And I think, so that was sort of the impetus in the moment, I guess.
Just a thought on that. It had occurred to me that you had 36 people, because it seemed like a number of times you would call a card that nobody had. So it occurred to me that maybe you should only give out cards to 36 cards to 36 people. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it seemed like there was times you were waiting for somebody and nobody was there. Just a thought.
No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, we did. We only gave out 36 cards and only had 36 cards in hand. But I think, next time we will just put the cards right in people's binders so they don't get lost under papers, in their name tags, etc., is I think what was happening there.
Tattoos would work too.
Now, there we go. All right. Any other thoughts or I'll go for it.
I just had a quick question. I'm wondering what other panelists did the panel prioritize hearing from? What were the gaps that they were needing to hear from?
Amazing. That's what I was going to go to next. Thanks. Let me share on my screen, or actually, let's see, Tiffany, I don't know if you have the ability to share this easily. Let's see, or I can, you know what, no, I can just copy and paste it into chat. I think that's easier than sharing my screen. Got it here. Okay, and there it is. So this is by the number of votes that each of these folks had. And at the top, Eric Danley and Jennifer Pritchard from the Petaluma Police, Peter Calthorpe from Calthorpe Associates, etc. down the list here. That in chat.
Can you tell me, what are these names?
So these are the names at the end of this weekend, just yesterday afternoon. The panel, after hearing from all the folks who presented, did a final sort of debrief that was focused on what are the gaps, and to look at the menu, spend some time reading the menu and then deliberating in small groups about who on the menu or not on the menu they felt like they wanted to call as presenters themselves. So these are their choices as far as presenters going forward.
So it was Eric Danley, Jennifer Pritchard, and Peter Calthorpe. Were those the three names I heard?
Those are the three at the top of the list here, but as with your list, it's a prioritized list because A, scheduling, and B, slots that may be available. We certainly the panel will be able to select more than three. I just read off the first three on the list there. But I can read off more here. Teg Bagdasarian from the Department of Food and Ag, Corey Garbarolio from the city, the finance director, Christy, a student representative from SRJC, Brian Sobel, Sunrise Movement, Yayas Novella, Telemundo, Peggy Flynn, Mike Parks, Catherine Reinhardt, Mark Krug from Burbank Housing, and Julie Atwood from the Halter Project. So we're going to start at the top of this list as before. I think our current thinking is that about 6 of these probably will make it into panelists into speaking slots. But the panel will also get, that's not 100% because A, the panel will also get another chance to do a gaps analysis and identify additional presenters in June, and B, the panel will start to manage its own process. It will start to give us feedback on things like how much more information do you want, how, what kind of information in what kind of formats, how do we prioritize that versus other elements of the process that are to come? Those kind of questions will now go to the panel's process subcommittee, which will be formed over the next few weeks. So that's why we can't sort of say, well, 100% X number of people are going to present. But certainly the top, at least the top 6 of these folks will be folks that we will be looking to contact right away.
So Lynn, do I understand you correctly that the 3 that you had mentioned before that didn't make it, the Hines and student leadership and Eric,
right?
They are being bypassed for the top 3 on this list, or I'm not understanding this.
No.
Entirely.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's confusing. So no, those three, Heather Hines, the student leadership, and Eric DeCook, those 3 folks are guaranteed spots. Assuming, I think there's still a scheduling question about Eric, but they are guaranteed slots. That was our promise to you last week, right. Was that we would find them special slots in June. So this is in addition to that. And that was our promise to the panel as well. They may have, we told them, you don't have to select those 3 folks. Those 3 folks are already coming per the IAC's recommendation. So
this list now that is showing up in chat, that list is a reflection of what the panel asked for?
That's right. In addition to the 13 they saw this weekend and those 3 that are guaranteed spots, this is, in addition to that, this is who the panel thinks, that the panel wants to hear from. Yep.
Okay. And to Ann's point, Chrissy Hubaker already spoke, and she is also on what you had referred to before as the decision makers. So they will be speaking. That's right. So separately again.
Yes. So, well, if she comes, I don't know if she's how far she is up that list, but yes, what we told the panel, we told them that those decision makers will be coming in June, but that if they want specific information from specific people, because we don't, we have told the fair and the city, hey, we'd like you to come to speak on the decision-making context, how the panel's recommendations will be used, what the potential impacts of this decision are, or the decision-making context, sorry, not the impact. But we don't know exactly what they're going to speak about. We don't know exactly who they're going to send to speak about that. So our direction to the panel was, hey, if you have a specific goal of a specific person at either of those organizations and specific things that you want from them, you need to request that yourself, and we will go and get that for you. So that can mean somebody who's already been there. It's now in the panel's hands. And that has been true in the past. Sometimes a panel wants to go back to someone they've heard from before because they have more stuff for them, and that's their prerogative. Okay, questions from Katie here. Thanks. Thanks for that, Tiffany. And what day in June are the city and fair coming? That's an Alex question, I believe, but I believe it's June 17th. So it's certainly that long weekend, not June 4th. It's June 17, 18, or 19, but I think it's June 17th.
Who's Eric DeCook?
He works for the state.
Maybe someone else?
Oh, okay.
On climate planning, sort of the intersection between climate and planning.
Thank you. I just couldn't remember.
You didn't memorize the whole list, Ingrid?
I did not. I really
Shocking.
tried, but
Put it together.
impressive list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the third time I think we've done a menu like this, and this is certainly the best version of this. I mean, it's the most extensive. I think it had the richest kind of, enough useful information without being overwhelming. I think it struck that balance if I was just sort of reading the room from the panelists working in small groups yesterday. So much appreciation to all of you who put time into thinking of folks, consolidating, writing those little statements. They were really having a good time looking through them. And
is that what you mean by menu? Was all the statements?
That's right. Yes. So the menu was exactly what you looked at. It was name, if there was a specific person, name of the organization or the type of person, and why the IAC or why the nominator thought that they were important, why they're important to speak to the panel.
Got it.
Yep. Let's see, another question here from Diana. How many of us on the IAC are going to the June 4th public input meeting? Oh, I don't know. How many of you are going?
Planning to.
Hands? Okay, I see Anne, Diana, Anna.
I'll probably.
No, I
Cool.
said that I might go.
Wrong.
You're coming, Anna?
Might, yes.
I think it's full now,
Super.
so you'll have to use the special code that we were sent on the email that Alex included in the email when she gave us the link to the June 4th meeting. There's I guess it's called a promotion code that you have to put in. Otherwise, it's full for the regular public, which
Yeah.
I actually got a complaint from one of the neighbors about that. And I wonder if there's any way to address the fact.
Yeah. It's so one thing is that there will be folks taken off the wait list. I believe that the goal there is was to have some slots available for members of stakeholder groups, and then some slots available for folks who had applied for who had responded to the lottery mailing but hadn't been selected, and then some slots available to anybody. And I think, if I'm not wrong here, that the intention is that was sort of, once those first two groups had sort of been satisfied, then folks would start getting pulled off the wait list to fill the remaining slots. There is a limitation on the number of folks who can participate because of the activity and the size of the room and the ability for panelists to hear from a large number of folks. But I think the total is something around 100 people, if I remember right. I see hands from Katie first, I think.
I probably missed this at the beginning and I apologize. So they heard from the first set of speakers that we recommended. And are they going to hear, how many was that?
That was 13 this weekend.
And then in the following weekend, is it more from the list we came up with or this list that they came up with?
Okay, so it's 3 more from your list, from your ranking. That's
Okay.
the Heather Hines, the student leadership, and Eric DeCook. Those are folks who were ranked very highly by you all, but just couldn't do this weekend for scheduling reasons. So we promised that we'd bring the 3 highest ranked over that were just had scheduling issues. And then we're drawing from the panels list.
Okay.
Okay, and Jerry, your hand?
Yeah, thank you. I forgot, I did sign up for the June 2nd thing, and I also got a complaint, not a complaint, a notification from my wife, because she got the public invite the next day and tried to sign up and it was full. So I had another question too, Lynn. There was a public, like a gallery there at Lucchese, correct? You know, that taped off little Blackberry. How many people were actually there? When I was there, there were 2.
Yeah, I think there weren't as many as we expected. I think there were some folks who watched the live stream. I think there were over 100 live stream views the first day, 70 something the second day. But yeah, we were set up to host up to 40 people in person there, and we probably got a total of, I don't know, 8 to 10 or something like that over the course of the weekend. I would say that's probably about average for these processes that we've done in the past. But yeah, not a ton of folks.
And I did watch a good portion of it live stream, and that is a lot easier.
Oh,
so.
Cool. Yeah, totally.
Maybe there's a way to let people know.
In the future.
Maybe there's a way to let people know that if they try to sign up and it's full, just like a reminder that they can also watch it live stream.
That'd be fabulous. Tiffany, could you make a note of that? And I noticed you put something in chat about not receiving an invite to June 4th. If you could send an email to Alex and Tiffany, actually all 3 of us, about that, that'd be wonderful. Or Tiffany, maybe you can make a note of that, actually. Sorry. Right. And Katie, was that your hand from earlier, or is that a new question?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Cool. Thanks much. Let me just look here at, we've covered the first couple, and we sort of moved into the community exchange event. And I think that was sort of the second thing that I was going to cover here, was just that's happening on the afternoon. I think it seems like you all know about that, but just in case not, June 4th in the afternoon, we're partnering with another organization called Democracy Together that are based in the Bay Area, who are a new organization, but the folks who are involved are longtime sort of participation practitioners, particularly in multi-stakeholder kind of work, and they are sort of moving into the lottery deliberation world, which is the technical name for what we do. And so we're getting their involvement on this sort of a piece of this project, partly to take the load off of us, and also because we just want to involve additional styles and employ more local folks through the project to do pieces of it. So they're going to be actually running the afternoon that day, and they're going to be doing that sort of large, what's called a World Cafe style process, which is basically just a lot of small group tables where the panel will be spread out, hearing from folks in conversations, and then switching between tables to hear from multiple different folks. So it's a way to get a lot of voices into the room in a few different rounds. And so the whole panel won't hear from all 100 people, because that's impossible, except if one took days and days, but they'll hear, from a number of different people throughout the afternoon, answering, sort of going through a couple of different questions. So, that's the kind of format. In the morning that day, there will be a set of presenters. I believe that's where those three, Heather and Eric and that the presenter will be, if I'm remembering right. Tiffany will know the answer to that, I think. And also a visit to the fairgrounds, hopefully. I think we're still waiting on Christy to confirm that, but we site visit that morning. Any other thoughts or questions? If I'm not looking at
Yeah,
this here.
Lynn,
Sure.
so who will be the people at these tables that the panel will be hearing from? You said
So
they'll
that'll be
be
a
moving
mixture
around to
of
different
folks.
tables?
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
Yeah. So that'll be I'm sorry. I'm talking the delay. It'll be a mixture of folks who've signed up for that community event. So it'll be some folks from stakeholder groups, some folks who responded to the lottery mailing but weren't selected, and then other folks who fall into neither of those categories, all mixed up.
And they're gonna be at at these tables talking to the panel, or it's not clear to me. I'm sorry.
No worries. Absolutely. Yeah, maybe I wasn't making that clear. Yes. So the panel will be distributed, members of the panel will be distributed throughout those tables as well. So the point here is sort of, it's a listening session, I guess you might call it, in terms of the panel being able to hear from other folks. They've heard these, sort of staged presentations and Q&A sessions, but we want there to be multiple different ways that the panel hears perspectives and information. And so this is another way of doing that. It's sort of a big sort of organized meet and greet with the panel, but in an organized fashion, so that there's two panelists at a table with 4 or 5 other folks, and they are all interacting on the same question, and then folks are rotating and some more interaction, etc.
So I guess my question is, who are these other folks then?
Right. So it's some stakeholders, it's some folks who weren't selected through the lottery but wanted to be, and it's a lot of members of the general public who signed up on that link. So we have no idea who they are, or I have no idea who they are. This other group that's running the Eventbrite knows who they are. Has of course the attendance list, but.
So it's kind of a random sampling of people who have expressed interest.
Exactly. Yep. So it's not going to be sort of a demographic cross section of the community or anything like that. It is a self-selected group of folks that wanted to, interact on this issue. But that's an important part of our democracy as well, is bringing in folks that have a strong interest in the issue and the topic at hand,
So
so the panel gets
you say
continues to get a
self-selected,
sense of all the perspectives.
how are these people determined then? You said self-selected. How are these random people selected, determined?
Aren't these
Right.
the people that signed
They're not-
up through the Eventbrite who were invited on various emails? So emails went out to the Healthy Democracy has a mailing list. The city's been maintaining a mailing list. We sent out a notice with a link. And so I think, Lynn, what you're saying is whoever responded to the link is who's in the meeting.
Exactly, and it was first come, first serve is maybe what I should have said there as well. Like you would at sort of a more traditional event. So there was no kind of a lottery process or anything like that. Right. Well, that was all that was on our agenda. Thanks for all the questions. Next week, I should preview next week. Feel free if anybody thinks of something, raise a hand. The next week will be some more chat about what's happening in June, and just looking forward to the sort of continuation of the information gathering phase and the end of that in June. It may also be a shortened meeting, not an hour and a half. As Alex said, we really appreciate the fact that you all have put in a lot of time outside of these meetings, and so we don't want to sort of have extra long meetings if we don't need to. But we also wanted to have a couple of these meetings after the panel started meeting, in case something came up, in case as in this case, where there were questions and about what was happening. And also we want to go over sort of our plan for June next week in a little bit more detail. So I think that's it. Oh, I see Marion here.
At some point, are we going to be given the ability to evaluate this process and make criticisms or additions?
Yes. So that was the intention of the July meeting, to be an evaluation sort of meeting after the process is completed at that point. But of course, we'll take your suggestions, criticisms, comments, and so forth at any point.
No, I can certainly wait till then.
Sorry, say again?
I said I can wait till July as long as it's scheduled.
Okay, fair enough.
Only about the overall
It was part of,
process, not necessarily the specifics of who the presenters were. There are other changes that I think down the road you guys need to consider.
okay, wonderful. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, take a note of them if you can, or if you think you might forget them or something like that, please write them an email or let us know. But yeah, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear them. Always evolving, particularly this part of the process is fast evolving. Hopefully better every time. All right. Well, seeing nothing else here, I think we might be good for today, unless anyone else has anything to add. All right. Thanks very much, y'all. See some of you we'll see all of you next week.
Yep.
Have a good
Thanks,
train ride.
Yep. Hope it goes well.
Thanks very much.
How long does it take to get from the train from here to Portland?
It takes until, let's see, 9 p.m., 9:30 tonight until 3:30 tomorrow, I think. So
6
however many
hours?
hours that is. Yeah,
9
but
to 9, 12, 18 hours.
there we go. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant 3:30 in the morning. I was like, wow, that seems
Oh yeah,
fast
no,
for
thankfully.
train.
If you were in Japan, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. There
Have
we
a
go.
nice trip.
Totally.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.